Hi, this is Dr. Jesse Jackson III, the founder of the Black Male Success Academy and author of the best-selling book, Black Boys Can Learn: How to Keep Black Boys Engaged and Increase Classroom Performance. Well, listen, what we're going to do in this training is I'm going to walk you through and really see if I can bring alive some of many of the principles that we taught in this book. It's some things that I really want you to think about. You know, people ask me, why do you focus so much on black males? There's some obvious things, but there's some hidden underground uh, information that I believe can help people to understand. You got to think, you know, there's over 18 million black men in this country. However, I can safely tell you as an insider to some very critical data that we have well over 5 million of those men incarcerated, on probation, or on parole. Okay? So you're talking about a third of the guys have encountered a negative outcome in the system. You have the new hottest crime among kids that are school age is home invasion. These are black boys that literally believe that education won't work out for them. The epidemic of the 80s was crack cocaine. The epidemic of the 2012 2013 is youth murders. Many of you that have followed my work, you know that I am in the prison business, and this is where I have made my expertise is in youth murders, understanding that process and if they're rehabilitatable or not. Youth murderers are on the climb. You're talking about there's been a literally an 80% increase over the course of 2 years. Where it used to be, one or two here, you're talking about we're over 100 in many states. And that's should alarm all of us. The data tells us that black male confidence in the education process is at an all-time low, meaning they don't believe the things we're teaching is going to work out for them. Why? You see, it's because the economics. Why are black boys getting into home invasion? See, well, I'll talk about that. I'll help us to understand some of these things. Also reflect that black male classroom performance is at all-time low, totally disengaged, totally, as we said, don't believe that it'll work out. So you have to ask yourself some critical things. You have to say, well, why is that? Well, one thing is that the standard American education system is designed under lecture format. The real time truth of working with black males of all ages, real time truth in an 80-20 sense, that means 80% undebatable truth and 20% I believe we're right about it, but we're not going to debate you about that, is that the black male learning distinction is clearly defined in two spaces. One, that black males communicate in an emotionally based function, meaning our communication style is based on how we feel. So we are going to establish rapport with you, listen to you, trust you. If we don't trust you or don't feel you, you hear so many black boys say, "You feel me?" What they're saying is, do we have a connection? Is there an understanding between you and I? It's emotional based connection. This is so dangerous because a lot of times, if I don't like you or don't like the outcome, I'll shut down. A lot of men do this in marriage. A lot of sons do this in the home. And this is a feeder for anger and depression. This is a feeder for low performance. And so this begs the point that the communication with this client is the key critical component. How you communicate. And emotional based communication is not logic, it's a connection. It's something you understand. And I'm telling you, there are black and white people and people from other parts of the world who don't get this. So don't think this is a black thing and you have to be black to relate to black boys. There's no truth to that. This is colorblind. Connection and emotional based communication has to do with the individual and your understanding and your ability to empathize instead of sympathize. We don't need sympathy with our black boys. We need empathy. Empathy means that I do understand you. I understand your history. I understand your family history. I understand a lot of your emotions. I don't have to concur, but I feel you. I can see. I make a serious endeavor to see, and you see with this, not with these. feel, see. That's number one. Number two is that it's been proven that the black male learning style is clearly kinetic, hands on movement. Touch, feel, be. Touch, feel, do. And in our standard American lecture format, the hands on opportunities are not there. This is why the streets are beating the schools because they provide always something's happening. And anything you do in the streets, you got to touch it and be involved. And that's why we're losing. A lot of people will say, well, that's too bad. And they need to come where we're at. Folks, I'm telling you, if you want to win this battle, we have to go where the fight is and increase our understanding of our client. What I present to you is that we've been failing a genius. There's some non traditional genius qualities shown to us in black men, and we don't understand them. And folks, I really had a real chance to see this doing treatment, working with hundreds of young people. And I really, when I first started to get this understanding, I was working with, I want to say over the course of 18 months, about 51 young men. And I was able to see with the things I'm going to share with you, the consistent understanding of these things actually are for real. If they don't trust you and emotionally are disconnected from you, they'll shut you down. You can be all the way right. You've said the thing that we need to hear. You have the message of freedom, but I don't feel you and I don't connect and I'm not going to listen. The second part is they have to be a part of the lessons. True rehabilitation is involving the people in their process. That's why I make all guys who come through my treatment program have to get a GED or high school diploma and enroll in college. They have to actively be a part of it and they have got to participate in the business skills and knowledges program system because it's an active part. Rehabilitation is an action. It's not something I can tell you. You can't sit in my group and learn. You gotta do, and that's how you get better. So our mission here in teaching and performing high levels of the classroom is we gotta understand what are the characteristics of high academic failure. What's the characteristics? What does it look like? Can we track some of this? If we see it, can we get in front of it? Number two, can we consistently identify clearly the learning style? We've already said yes, we can, and now we're going to increase the classroom performance. What is that process? So some things you got to look out for why this is critical. One, you got black boys are high majority of special education students. What this means a lot of times, what you got to do when you view special ed, you got to be very careful. A lot of black boys are being misdiagnosed in special ed. We are mistaking and using special education for behavior problems. Okay? And that's what's happening. So special education is really, it's straightforward. You know, being a person who works with psychiatrists and does this type of thing, I've been doing this in my life. Special education, you have one type that's developmentally disabled. That's typically the people we see that have mild or severe mental retardation. Folks, you can see a developmental disability. You can look at the person's face. You can look at the person's body. It's a developmental disability. The other side, when you look at these IEPs, you see that people are being diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, antisocial personality. Folks, these are not even billable codes in the Axis book. If you build those to an insurance company, you wouldn't get a dime. What that means is you have a person with the social part. That's what we've been missing. Educators are trying to be logical. Okay? We're trying to be logical to a social problem. There's no logic to a social problem. That's why we can't solve it because you're trying to be logical. You're trying to use your education, and your education when solving these type of problems will fail you. There's no logic to it. And then what we always say is, well, we need the data. We need the data. The data, there's a stat behind the stat. So you have to kind of know what you're doing, use the data, but always have the real-time information, a stat behind a stat. That's the winner's way. And without it, you're going to fail. So you can't, we're the education system so smart, we're dumb. We're so smart, we'll miss it. Why are all of our teachers are struggling? Because the personal side of their life has totally fell apart. They've neglected their money, they've neglected their health, they've neglected their family, and now they're miserable, they're mad, they're frustrated, and now you want to cut my pay, now you want to cut my benefits, and they're all mad and frustrated. And we've actually had her rebel from students, parents, and teachers. The non logical side, common sense. And common sense is not always common practice. So we also see that uh, our black male students are leading in discipline problems. One piece of data showed that in one school year, approximately 2 years ago, that 25% of every suspension in Chicago public schools was a black male. We see that clearly that boys are active in well over 80% in dropouts, less than 50% of the college population. And the absolute wonderful consultant from Atlanta, Michael Wynn, says his data says that only 5 out of 10, 5 out of 100 black males in kindergarten right now will graduate from college. So what is this saying? We don't understand boys. We don't understand the challenges of our boys. We don't understand the challenges of raising boys. We don't understand what they're going through. We don't understand where the gap is because we continue to keep the gap going. So you have to say what is also contributing to our guys not being able, just obstructing their learning. Well, the thing is you see there's a different social dynamic, okay? The family structure has changed. In the black community, you can see that there is a reality that's not common among the free world. The data says in many cities, like 5 cities, the children that are disconnected physically from the household from their dad is as high as 97%. Places like Detroit, Baltimore, Philadelphia, you can see these things are dominant. And folks, it matters to any human being. Just so happen we're talking about black boys, but you take that father emotionally away from a human being, and you will have what we're looking at in this black community. And that's what's happening to our boys. So there's a disconnect between 50% of who you are, and that's what's causing the confusion. Listen, if you don't feel well, you can't learn. See, that's what I'm saying. We have so logical. We want to come up with all these new PD programs and all this new special software and technology will fix it. But folks, if I don't feel well, I don't perform. And what people have said, well, I didn't have my daddy, and look at me. Well, we are not you. This group is not you. This group, if they don't feel it, that's the 1 out of 10 that can do that. That's that kid that's gonna make it anyway. That's 1 out of 10. And you cannot use a 1 out of 10 example of why we can do it. You can't use Bill Gates as a college dropout and say, well, look, Bill Gates dropped out and look what he did. Folks, that's a 1 in a billion. You can't do that. Okay? So you see, well over 25 million children in the population are living separate from their biological father. Grandparents are stepping up to raise kids today, and a lot of people growing up in single parent homes. The single parent home just means that there are essentially a separation of values. Typically, in a single parent situation, the data tells us you're going to live in 5 different locations through the course of before you're the 8th grade. That means you're moving around. That means stability is really a struggle. We're living right now in the post welfare age. Welfare has done unbelievable damage to this country. I mean, unbelievable damage to this country. It's like No Child Left Behind was not intended to destroy education, but folks, it absolutely has. It was great intent. We know where they were trying to go. It has destroyed the fabric of education because it's put everybody against each other. It separated administration from the teachers. It separated the teachers from the parents. And now the students are in the middle. And now everybody has to be accountable. And now everybody has essentially turned on each other. And here it is, 10 to 12 years later. What are we dealing with? A divisive, non-productive situation, and the kids and families that need the most help aren't getting it. We see also with our black boys is that you have a high population in many cities of where young people's father is locked up, parent is locked up. So that deals with how you view yourself. That affects self-esteem. That affects how you view yourself. That affects if you how you it's just your whole idea of self. We have so many of our kids dealing with mental health disorders. The data says roughly 10% of kids will see it, and over half of them you'll start seeing it in them by 14. Our teacher always taught us when you start talking about mental health disorders, you got to always think depression. Well, this goes right along with what I'm saying. Hopelessness. Depression is hopelessness. This means I don't have a good outlook for my life. I don't think it'll work out for me. And that's, folks, is what we're seeing with our kids. That's what we're seeing with these black boys. Hopeless outlook. So now our solution is let's get them on meds. Let's refer them for IEP, a lot of them. And it's not working. We got to remember what our number one job is as educators with these young people, folks, and that is to make taxpayers. If you're not producing taxpayers and you're putting people in tax taker situations, you put your job at jeopardy because the American system runs on taxes. And if you're not producing students that are going to go out there and pay taxes, you're part of the problem. So when you look at these high risk factors, we can look and see what's happening with these guys. You can see, okay, if I've got a young man that's poor, with poor academic performance, low interest in school, in the elementary school, third, fourth grade. We have failed to identify his learning style, so we don't know how they learn. They may have dropped out on and off in school. They may come. Now, this is where the government sees it, okay? And when the government looks at census, this is how they can predict prison timing. So they're looking for single parent homes because that gives some feedback in terms of two things in their data of poverty and how the planned prison ideology. It's fact. Looking for poverty statistics. So if you got a free and reduced lunch in a Title I school, you have kids that are in that system and in that vein. It means it's the challenge on you as the educator is how do I beat this? How do I go above this? How do I win this fight? And poor planning. Typically, people are not planning, don't see themselves living that long, so they don't plan for college. They don't plan for high school. They kind of hope it works out for them, and that is a losing philosophy. We have to ask ourselves, okay, what doesn't work? The low performing methods. Folks, I'll tell you right now, one of the major low performing methods is mentoring. Mentoring for black boys does not work because here's the hook. If I am a hands on learner and you attempt to mentor me to keep me from doing wrong, I'm a hands on. How do I learn? By doing it. Problem. So you see, we're getting the reverse outcome of something we thought was so positive, mentoring. So think about this. If we could straighten these boys out by scare straight, bringing somebody to the school who can see them, bringing an ex-offender there to talk to them, bringing somebody that's been shot there to talk to them, folks, we just saw this problem a long time ago. You and I both know it's backfired. It actually eggs it on. It actually, the storytelling and people giving us their story and their walk in life. What these kids, this group is saying is, well, that was stupid. Why did you get caught? I'm not gonna get caught. They ain't gonna shoot me. Hey, ain't nobody shooting me. I'm not gonna get caught. See, you was dumb. That's how you got caught, not me. I'm gonna be a little smarter than you. And that's what's happening. You can't use others' experiences with a hands-on learner. Hands-on learners place little value on others' experience. So what you have to do is if you got a hands-on learner, you have to place them in a place of active learning. So if you don't want them to go to prison, you have to overdose them with learning opportunities, higher economic opportunities. I always say, people say, we want to take a tour of the prison. No, you don't. You want to take a tour of Wall Street. Go watch Wall Street and watch $1 billion change hand a minute. Go to an oil field in Texas and watch billions of dollars sucked out of the ground per second. That's inspiring. That is what will overcome the poverty mind. To try to do it with mentoring is too slow, it's too frustrating, and folks, it does not work. Now, you have a lot of programs in the schools that do coach boys and kind of help them in man things and things like that. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the theory of mentoring. The data says, I mean, the real time is that mentoring comes from your father. The root word of that says big brother and father. And folks, we have to stop with this system of father replacement. You cannot replace dad. You cannot replace a kid's dad. And so we have got to have kids to deal with the reality. So many times in the black community, we don't want our kids to know our history. You have parents that won't tell kids what was, anything about their childhood, anything about their family. It's just all, let's keep it from us. So here we are repeating history. Won't tell me nothing about my daddy. Won't tell me he was in a gang. Won't tell me he was smoking weed. Won't tell me you got pregnant when you was 13. Won't tell me any of that. And here I am, repeat the cycle. This is why we're failing our black boys. Black boys can absolutely learn, but they don't learn through lies. They don't learn through half the story, but they do learn through straightforward truth, straightforward fact. So you got to know the learning styles and know the learning gifts of movement. And the boys need to get up and move around. They need to get up and be a part of it. Why can I give you a book on how to fix a car and it take a year, but I'll show you how to fix it and we'll fix it in a day? Folks, I'm living it. I'm a living example of these things. This is how I learned. I learned business hands on. I didn't go to business school. I went to the business school of the streets. And my teachers say that's when you start a business and you start taking these bumps, read books, fail, learn, fail, learn, fail, learn. Find a teacher, teach a little something, fail, learn. Then you build up and you get it, and you get it. That's how I learned it. And folks, this is how it works. Okay. So the thing is, boys, they're going to need to take active breaks. This is why in my PD sessions, I give people a break every 15 to 18 minutes because they need to take a break. And as a matter of fact, you need to take a break. If you're watching this right now, you need to take a break. You need to watch yourself and pace yourself. This thing will stop for you every 18 minutes. So you go and reflect, get your thoughts, and come back. That's how you actually retain the type of stuff that you're doing. The hands on. Black men speak with their hands. You see this energy. You see one of the major things about gang culture is sign language. They are communicating. We don't like what they're saying, but they are communicating. You see men do use their hands. I use my hand. I'm actually engaging and pulling the crowd in, extending my feelings and emotion via my hands. And boys typically tend to remember what was said, but have a difficulty, to remember what was done, but have a difficulty remember what you said. So you ever notice that your kid and your student will always tell you what you did that day? But you be like, and what do you ask them? Well, what did I say to you? What? I don't remember. But ask them, well, what did I do? Yeah, see, you remember? I saw you doing it. That's how we learn. The data, one chart says by Dr. Edgar Dale in 1969 says that clearly we're only retaining 10% after 2 weeks. We're only retaining 10% of what we read after 2 weeks. He goes on to say that we retain 90% of what we do and say through simulated experiences, doing the real thing and doing a dramatic presentation on the information. This gives us the advantage. That means I actually get it. So when you see this and you use this and get this in front of your people's hands, they got to do it. You got to do it. It's too important and we got to do it. So what I want to show you is when you're thinking about these black boys and learning, the last point here is that, and there's functions difference between right brain and left brain. I've always said clearly that black boys are right brain. It's true. Well, you see some characteristics of a right brain and a characteristic of a left brain. The hook is that most teachers are left brain. The data says that left brain people tend to be logic orientated, detail orientated, fact orientated. That's the education system. But the black boys they use their feelings. They want to see a big picture orientation. And they use imaginations for the rules, so they'll make the rules up as they go along. The right brain is a risk taker. The left brain plays it safe and practical. That's the difference. The education system operates under left brain theology, and the black male operates under right brain. Okay? Literally. Literally. It's a difference of emotion. Uses your feelings. One guy's using his brain and the other guy's using his feelings. And folks, we can end up that's how people in marriages miss each other. He's thinking and she's feeling. Two people that love each other miss each other. The teacher's thinking, the black boy's feeling. Two people that need each other. 15 do's and don'ts of black male classroom high performance. I want you to judge yourself and kind of see what you're connected with. What changes can you make that can give you a better opportunity to give a better outcome, improve the environment, and get the results you need? Number one is when you're working with black boys, you have to do set high performing goals. Okay, so you can't teach a black male without goals. If black men don't have a outcome, they're not going to perform. You cannot. I mean, have you ever been in a car with somebody that didn't know where they were going? Why do they do that? Well, listen, look, well, this looks good. We're lost, man. That's the same thing. You got to set high performing goals. Always set the goals higher, higher. Have a goal in your mind. But see, and people will say, well, don't set goals, unrealistic goals. You have to ask yourself, high performers are this group is not in that mode. You gotta set the bar so high that it really jogs this person and makes them say, I have to work. You're challenging me. You trying to say I'm stupid? Yep, our goal this semester is to read 100 books. I ain't doing that. Well, it's known that people, the difference between the rich and poor is a book a week. What? Who told you that? Right. High performing goals. I wouldn't set low goals for this group. We have been victims of low expectation. You got to set the goals so high that, man, if you don't get them, you done so well that you feel you don't know it. That's what we don't have. People have been saying, well, set them low. Well, that's what you get. And you only get what you pay for. You only get what you sell. I'm saying do set high performing goals. Number two, give do not give general instructions. Black boys mandate specific instructions. A lot of people don't know how to communicate with black men in general, really, on this one. When you are working with a black man and men in general, you have to give specific instructions. So when you say, I need you to bring your homework back, turn your homework in tomorrow, you need to say, I need your homework back at 8 a.m., put it on my desk in a folder, no spots, no stain, answer all the questions. Put your name in the left-hand corner and the date. Answer all the questions to the fullness of your ability. Do you understand? Yes, I do. They'll do it. We give general instructions. Thus, we get confusion. We get bad results. Specific instructions are what produce high performance. When I know specifically what you need me to do, I can do it. Now we're going to get better results. Number three says, do identify the learning style. So this means I know how you learn. Where we've had so many people in the education business say, well, you can't lump a learning style. I teach many ways. The new education system says we're looking for people to connect teachers and students who teach the same and learn the same. Where's the error's been is they say, well, we've been teachers teach the way they learn. So if you learn via lecture, you're expecting the students to learn via lecture. And that is a flaw in the system. So we have to say, okay, the first thing we have to do as teachers is identify how we teach. There's many teaching methods for a teacher: instructional, audio, visual. This is why we do DVDs, so people can see us. We do videos, online trainings, people can see us. We do things where people can listen to us via audio, and we do things live. People can experience us. How do you teach? That's the key. So then you learn how the kid learns. Because if you got lecturers and you're showing them videos, they're disinterested. If you've got kids that can learn via the video or the smart board and you're lecturing, you lose them. Period. Point blank. There's a lot of opposition to that. But this means the teacher really had the sad part about teaching is many of our skills that with things that we learned are obsolete. They no longer exist. And that should scare us all. The teaching methods we learned going through a 5, 6 year, 7 year college program about education and a master's degree in student teaching, a lot of those methods are obsolete. This is why PD becomes more relevant than ever before. We got to have relevant real-time PD that's about touching and working with the people. Software is great. Technology is fantastic. Great emotional speakers are great. But you need people, experts. No school today can afford to not work with experts. Folks, if you're not working with an expert in areas like this, your school doesn't have the competitive advantage and you're gonna lose Number four, do eliminate all distractions. A lot of teachers like to fight me about this. You know what teachers like to do? Decorate the room. They put their posters on the board. They got the ABCs. They got a world map. And what you got is a black boy that's everywhere around the room but where you need them. I say high performers eliminate distractions. High performers eliminate distractions. Focus, 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 focus. Try it. See how it works. Number five, do identify your teaching style. We've already said that. You got to know how you teach. Then you can assess how you're going to go about approaching this youth. Number six, don't break confidence. Confidence is key with this group. You know, a lot of teachers are just so mean, so nasty, so just mean spirited, and that it has the ability to break people's confidence. I always say my first college experience, 2 days into college, first day English class, you know, the teacher gives us a paper, write me and tell me about you. So I write the paper, come back on the next Tuesday, the lady puts a big fat red F and a devil head on it and say, you know, see me. And the first thing she says to me, you know, maybe college is not for you because your writing is so poor. You know, what just a not cool thing to say. Breaking confidence, telling people what's wrong with them, what's bad with them. I know a lot of people did that to you as a teacher, as a young person. That's not building confidence. That's not being truthful or keeping it real. That's being a promoter and a killer of dreams and high performance. You have to evaluate yourself. It's a way to get in people's head and psychology without breaking confidence. Confidence with this group is a critical thing, and it's something that you really have to learn how to do. Confidence comes from your father, but if you know we working with a group that has fathers hot and cold, maybe it's up, down, unstable situation, this is where you really have to be that force that can really, really, really understand the delicate balance of high performance confidence building with your students. Number seven, don't frequently use handouts. I interviewed, and all those kids I interviewed in the lockup who were in treatment with us, one of the things they said was that the handouts really, 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 really was very frustrating. Why? Because the print was too small, and it showed that the teacher a lot of times didn't give any thought to what they wanted to do, and the kid picked up on it. Usage of handouts a lot of times is lazy. Now, no, let me note this. If you're making handouts, so different. But copying other people's work and giving it to kids with limited instructions, that's not high performing. If you're making handouts, if you're making assignments, creating your own work that's in accordance with the curriculum and what's desired of you, I think that's high performance. I think you're looking for something. I think that might be something going a different way. If you're using handouts and making your own, make the print bigger, it's less frustrating to the kid. Give full, clear, specific instructions, outcome instructions, because you'll get better results. A lot of times it's frustrating. Those instructions are really, 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 really frustrating. They say some stuff that we really don't understand, and a lot of times we don't respond well to. Number eight, do set time limits. High performers have to be on a clock. So you got to practice putting them in pressure situations where they learn high performance. Putting them, okay, we have 15 minutes for this assignment, 15 minutes for that assignment, 20 minutes for this assignment. Time limits. All right, I need this book report, 15-page book report back by next Monday. Well, today's Thursday. High performance tasks, pressing and pushing people towards high performance. These are the type of things that breed high performance. A lot of people don't understand high performance. High performance must be pushed. High performance must be invoked. It's a process of coaching. When you're working with black boys, you almost become their coach. It's like, okay, I'm setting high things out for you and I'm pushing you and weaving you and coaching you towards the goals. These are things that we have to be able to do and the kids really respond to. You have to do it. Setting time limits is a key pillar of high performance. As well as number nine, do conduct group learning projects. This means you're working as a group. The education system's bad because it fails in a lot of ways because life is a team sport. Business is a team sport. You got to learn how to work with the best people. But we get in school and everybody wants to be a solo artist. We don't learn group and business skills. And the first time you end up working with a group is in college. And for a lot of us, that could have been a positive or negative experience. You have to conduct group learning projects, learning how to use the power of the group. The same way people flock and stay in gangs, you got to learn how to use that power and that high performance group energy towards pushing people to do special things. The 4.0 group learning project, we are going to research things about cancer in high school, causing kids to bond together and use the energy of the group for high performance. Use group learning projects. Number 10, don't avoid the subject of money. When you're working with black men and black boys, money is critical. I mean, it's like a part of the DNA that we believe that we're supposed to be rich. It's a part of our DNA. History tracks back. You do see high levels of kings and queens and nice, beautiful clothing in Africa. To detach and try to keep black men from the reality of wealth and the subject of money makes it always a negative because we don't bring things up like sex unless till it's something in the streets and dirty. That's a quiet hush hush topic. And money, we discuss that in a hush hush. Those are the things that we're getting beat in. This is where the kids are getting dominated. They think they gotta go get street money, and that's the only way you can get. Do you realize, why don't you, for one of your class projects with this group, introduce 15 new careers and economic opportunities and talk about money? Ask them, how much money do you think you need a year? How much money do you need a month to run your household? This gives them just opens their mind to the value of education, to the value of the process. When they don't have these talks, they fail. They don't know what's going on and they're out here delusional. They think that money is to be stolen and not woven. They don't know how to save money. They have a warped idea about money. And that's what happens when we fail and don't do our part to implement money as a part of our curriculum. I guarantee you'll see higher levels of retention, higher levels of interest, and even when you're doing English, talk the subject of money will improve our ability to write, ability to communicate. It's the one topic they understand. That's why rappers are popular. That's why athletes are popular, because they can visualize and they can see all this nice, pretty stuff. And that's why they listen to their voice. To think that money, something's wrong with money, it's nothing wrong with money. Being broke is the root of all evil. Please believe it. And when you've grown up impoverished, you've grown up in a situation where you've been poor all your life, how can I go to school if I'm not sure it's going to pay off? And we as educators have got to make sure that our young people know that school will pay off. Period. Number 11, do promote presentations of the data. That means giving kids an assignment and allowing them to present to their peers. Man, what a way for personal development. What a way for high performance learning. The ability to give them assignment and you're going to teach it to us. That's what makes it stick. That's what produces high performance. That's what produces researchers. That's what's produced people to be intelligent and do more homework than necessary, because kids in a presentation don't ever want to look bad. For these black boys, they all very competitive and don't want to look bad in front of a group of people, particularly young ladies. Number 12, you now this is a new concept. I believe do your homework in class and send the classwork home. Well, why do I say that? I believe the bulk of the learning really comes from homework. Homework, now where do you doing homework at? At home with a parent. I believe the homework really needs to be done with a teacher. The teacher to kind of work them through the homework, and the classwork tends to be more general sometimes. Assess that. Think what you see, what you think about. The homework is really critical. That's when you actually learn. The work you do at home is the difference between a scholar and a person who underachieves. The high performer does homework. So if homework was done under the supervision and tutelage of a teacher, I believe the high performance outcomes could be staggering. Number 13, don't be afraid of your students. I have found through my travels throughout America that so many people, black and white, men and women, are intimidated and afraid of black male students. If you're afraid of a black male student, you can't teach him. If you're afraid and don't know how to engage and work with them, you can't service people you're afraid of. We see this a lot of times in facilities. We see this a lot of times in the jails. If you're afraid of the population, you're beat already. If you have an attitude about your students and you believe they're criminals and crooks and they're going to hurt you and rob you, and you don't want them to get too close to you, and that just bothers you, this is not the population for you to work with. You can't be afraid of your student and be an effective teacher, period. Number 14, do not make excuses for black male students. Do not make excuses for why they can't do what we need them to do. Do not make an excuse for why they do not do what they do. So many of us, particularly female parents, are rescuing and making excuses for black boys and why they don't take care of business. You can't rescue a black man. Black men have to be held to account and to fire, and this is what we need for you, and challenge towards high performance. Don't make an excuse. There are a lot of bad situations. Empathy, not sympathy. Empathy for them, not sympathy. I don't need your sympathy. Sympathy is cancer of the human spirit and will leave me in a position where I cannot perform at a high level and I'll be a victim all my life. Number 15, do not refer to your own personal experience with black men and black boys. For example, if you've been robbed by a black male, if you've been in a relationship with black men and it didn't work out, and you've been cheated on by a black man, you've been abused by a black man, your father was an alcoholic. I know my brothers were this way. I know how you are. I've got black sons at home. I know how y'all can be. That's the wrong way to go about doing business. Very, very dangerous. Don't do it. Don't refer to your personal experience with black men and boys because it'll skew you. A lot of times you'll find yourself giving them a pass and letting them do things that no way they should do because you see them as a son. And I understand the connection, but that's not professional. And it'll put you in a situation that can be close to very ethical violations. A lot of times you might be harder on them based on that connection and referring to your personal experience. So either way, it's negative and no good. We need people to be professional, ethical, and are going to push people towards high performance. The emphasis is that's for all students, but we're talking in this case about our precious black boys, pushing them towards high performance. These are the things that I believe truly will give us that unbelievable advantage on just understanding what the problems are, understanding what makes them high risk, not being naive to that, not being ignorant to that, not saying, oh, okay, well, that's the way that is, and we're not going to worry about that part. When you're working with black men, you have to deal with the social issues. There's a major difference between where you grow up. There's a major difference in urban school districts and suburban districts and rural areas, people in different places. I work in all of them, so I know the difference. I know the energy. There's a difference between Detroit and Pittsburgh. There's a difference between Akron, Ohio, and Columbus. There's a difference between LA and Las Vegas. There's a difference between Houston, Texas, and Dallas. There's a difference between West Bloomfield, Michigan, and Ypsilanti, Michigan. There are differences. Being in Baltimore, there's a difference between Baltimore and Philadelphia. There are differences in growing up in different places, and you have to take that into account if you really want to be effective. When you work with black males and you're looking for high performance, one, you got to first understand they can learn. When you work with this group, the social factors must be addressed, but they must be mastered. Mastery of them, not just saying, oh, I acknowledge it. Mastery. This is why you need special staff to do it. If it's a crisis and it's beating us down at all-time highs, you need special staff and special staff trainings to do that, to build staff up to where they can, because it does require more energy. It does require more time, but you get more skilled in that when you have better training. And that's why we started the Black Male Success Academy to teach administration, our teaching staff, and the people that work with this group, our therapists, people in the facilities, so they understand what actually has to go into this for a successful outcome. Many people have said, well, they don't care how it works out for black boys. Many people have said, well, it's a trap we've set up for black boys. Folks, I'm not going to feed into that or buy it. What I know is there is an abundance of outstanding, hardworking, passionate, inspired teachers that will not let their students fail. I connect with you, and you are the person who feeds my energy and feeds my work to help us to better help black boys learn, succeed, achieve, and be high performers in the classroom.